Welcome back to Life a Go-Go. If you feel like you failed at decluttering in the past, it's not your fault. The key step most people miss isn't about the stuff itself. It's about the approach we take to the process. So today, we're going to change your mindset from judgment and overwhelm to optimism and momentum. When you start with your brain and not your closet, it's amazing what can get done. If this is your first time joining us, I'm Mary.
And I'm Adriane. And over the past 5 years, we have been fortunate to build an online community for women where we talk about home organization, productivity, and life hacks. And then this year, we decided to move to a YouTube channel. So we post a new video each week. And we also host monthly lives around the topics that we've been posting on. So our next live will be January 14th. It's 8 to 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can find all these details below. But we're actually going to be doing our first ever organization telephone, like the phonathon, but like for your organizing and decluttering questions. So if there's anything that you have, we're going to give everybody 5 minutes or less. You can either come on live and tell us about it, or you can pre-submit your pictures and questions in advance and we'll be going over them. So we're really excited about that. And again, that's the week, January 14th, but we do at least one live every month because we want to be able to connect with you and grow with you as a community.
So with the new year, having said all that, we all get organized, right? We want to have our ducks in a row. Now, we'll talk about I have squirrels, not ducks, but that's for another video. So we've created this mini series, and it's really to support your efforts in the organizing process this year. But we're going to do it a little differently from other organizing videos. And by the way, I love organizing videos. I love to watch them.
Mm-hmm.
But what most of them don't talk about is they don't talk about the mindset and the amount of decisions that you need to make in the organizing process. And so that's really what we're going to tackle throughout these series of videos. So we're going to do our best to give you our best tips and tricks using examples of a pantry and a bathroom. And you can see how these steps work in real time.
Yeah. And like you said, Mary, a lot of the people who post the content, although it is super enjoyable, they're usually not professional organizers or they have one way of organizing and it kind of locks you in. So yeah, by going through the 5 phases, which are the mindset, declutter, organize, optimize, and maintain, it sounds like a lot. Like it kind of sounds like a little bit of overwhelm. Like, why are there 5 phases? This person just pulled everything out and put it all back in and let's straight. But our hope is that by the end of the series, but you'll see that by following these phases actually makes the process a lot easier and way more sustainable. And today we're going to be talking all about the mindset piece of it, right? Because that's obviously the first step.
Yeah.
But when we talk about mindset, it's like when you know what you want to do with the items that are in the space, when you know how you want your space to function or how you want to feel when you come into that space, you're able to approach the entire process with just more confidence. So you're able to actually speed up your decluttering and your organization. You reduce that feeling of overwhelm and dread because it's actually not something you're looking forward to. I know personally, like if I want to create a craft space for myself, I'm like, okay, let's clear out all these items that we've just been storing in here because I'm getting myself out of craft closet or whatever. And it makes it just a more positive experience. It also allows you to outsource to a professional organizer. So Mary, I know you and I both do it, but you definitely have had a lot of experiences where people are like, can you organize a space? And they don't know what you want to do. And so we can make some gains, but if somebody's like, hey, I want to get rid of these items and I know I wanted to do this, you're able to actually create a huge space and you just feel so much better about that project.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
That's why people have failed in the past. And most of us have failed at decluttering. I mean, the actual work, okay, it is a little hard. It is hard, but it's not overwhelming, but it's the decisions and emotions that get in everybody's way. And that's why people are really good at decluttering other people's stuff. People want to go declutter their husband's stuff or their kids' stuff. And it's like, no, you got to do your stuff first.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Casey Davis actually had a really great example of this. I don't know if you're familiar with her. I heard her in a couple of podcasts, and she talked about she's very into systemizing the work, and she talked about the junk drawer example. So like if you were going to go and organize your junk drawer and you haven't thought through the process of it, then you're kind of doing all the roles. So we're going to hire somebody to come and clear out a space, right? We would hire a junk removal service to like, either trash or donate the items. And then we'd hire an organizer to make the space function. And then we'd probably hire a cleaner so everything looks nice when it's all done, right? And as women, we're like, oh, I can do all three of those at one time. Like, of course, if I was going to go to a junk drawer, I pull it out, I probably wipe everything down, and I'm not thinking through the system. I'm actually just creating way more overwhelm, and I'm getting in my own way. It's still the same chaos. We just don't see it. And I think that that leads a lot to one, your final product isn't exactly what you want to do. It's never going to be final. You're always going to be tweaking these systems, but you're not going to get that initial gain that you want. And you're also just going to feel more mental fatigue, if not physical fatigue from it.
Yep. That's exactly right. You talked about the laundry analogy in another video, I think, or earlier, and it is true. And I hate to tell people, but organizing is an ongoing process. Just like laundry is never done, you're going to go back again and again and again and declutter and go through all the 5 steps of figuring out what you need and what you want and getting it organized, because stuff is constantly coming in to our house and who we are is constantly changing. With my clients, when they call me, I hear, I don't know where to start. I'm completely overwhelmed. I have quite a number of clients that have some type of chronic illness. They don't have the energy. There's a lot of reasons that it is a difficult process. Or I don't have time. Everything has been, it's like my office, it becomes the dumping zone for whatever's going on, all the fall stuff because we're trying to get the Christmas stuff out or trying to get the Christmas stuff put away and go back to normal in January, February.
Yeah. So, and that overall is so relatable. I know even in my own life, I feel like, oh, if I only take, a few minutes at a time, like it's going to really make progress. And it's not when you don't have a plan, but when you have a plan, you can kind of start to really see like, okay, this is where we're going. And it just makes that a little bit better because a lot of times the items that we're avoiding because they do have that emotional charge to them, right? Or you're just not sure yet. So you're delaying that decision and that's costing you that freedom in that space. I think another issue that I see with my clients is that they know too much, right? So I get the client who is like, I've geeked out, I watched all the videos, I brought the products, I have the systems, but they're not making that progress. And I think that can actually get in your way because you feel like there's like this right way to organize, and there's not. And in fact, like we've talked about the different personality styles, and we'll go into that in the organization phase, but whatever works for you is probably the right way. And again, a lot of times where my clients get stuck up is they're trying to follow a system that works for like a professional organizer. So like the Marie Kondo way of thinking, like she wants you to pull out everything and go through your whole house and find every shoe that you have and put it all in a pile and then determine where you want to go. And that's great. It is definitely a way to know how much you have and declutter. But that is so much work. Like just physically going through my house and getting my shoes, I'm well over, 30 minutes of work. And I'm still like, and now I have this huge pile in the middle of my living room, right? So I think that's definitely something I see, as well as like the different phases of life, which I'm sure you have examples of.
Yeah, a lot because you and I are in different phases of life also. And what was working for you in your 40s is probably your world is very different in your 60s. I'm in my 60s. So, the things I was interested in doing or the crafts or the volunteerism or the nature of my job as an organizer, things have shifted and changed. And what I'm no longer interested, I'm trying to let go. There are certain crafts that I don't do anymore that I need to let go because it makes room for who I am now, not who I wish I was or who I was or my fantasy self. Or also just making the time. A lot of times you no longer entertain formally, so you want to turn that in your dining room into a library or maybe a craft room or sewing.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly fine. There's no squad from Better Homes and Gardens that's going to come and say you can't do that. It also is making time because a lot of people are taking care of aging parents. They may have adult kids they don't have to worry about anymore, but they've got aging parents. And they may have to be making room for them to potentially come live with them or stay with them for extended periods of time. So it really depends on what season of life you're in, how you're going to look at your space.
And it can be more subtle too. I mean, well, one, like you said, time. organization, like this whole process, like the 5-part process, is really a huge time investment. Like you put a little bit of time in and you can save time for years on end, because they say like it takes 16 minutes to look for something that's lost in your space.
Mm-hmm.
So the less time you're spending looking for lost items, the less time you're dusting items that you don't even like anymore, like all of that compounds. And I know that's always something we're always looking for is time savers in our group. But like really, this is probably one of the key ways that you can invest some time and get true returns. But I was just going to say, I think the different phases of life can also be a little bit more subtle. With the events of 2020, a lot of us stopped wearing, the costume jewelry, or now maybe like the workplace dress code has gotten more relaxed, or like a lot of us stopped wearing heels, and it's just like, okay, that's where we were, and it's okay to move forward from that because now it's been several years and we know we're not probably going back. So I think that it can also be simpler things. And like you said about the changes, that's something we always hear about is like, oh, well, I used to enjoy doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, getting rid of your crafts, that's so hard to do. Like it really is hard because we have this guilt that once we become adults, we should just like everything forever. Like we wouldn't expect that of a toddler. We wouldn't be like, oh, when you were 4, you really liked this toy and you're 8 now, so you should just play with this toy. But yet we expect that of ourselves.
Oh, I love that analogy. That is brilliant. You are absolutely right. And the whole process is full of decisions. And that's what you can do to start preparing for the process. And
Mhm.
I don't want to overcomplicate it, but the more you kind of get into the right mindset, the better this process is going to go. And that's probably, as I said, why some failure occurred in the past is you weren't in the right mindset for getting ready to declutter and organize and optimize.
You literally like walked into the room and you're like, okay, let's get started.
It may every fiber in your body was going, I really don't want to.
Yeah,
I
I'm guilty of that. Like, let's just put on some fake positivity and go do it. And then you're like, I don't know what we're doing.
yeah. Why is this not working? You know? So it's all those decisions about what to declutter, how to declutter, what you're going to do with it. Where is it going to go? Do I need to? There's just a lot of stuff. So that's where that whole mindset piece comes in. Because if you really kind of think through some of the questions that we've talked about and are getting ready to talk about, it's going to make the process that much easier.
Yeah. So maybe like, what's the first thing that they should kind of start thinking about?
Really, the why and your motivation for this. That because it becomes, remember, we talked about going from judgment to optimism and momentum.
Yeah.
Because if you get your why, and your why can be simple, it's like, because I want to enjoy my home some more, or I want to be able to craft immediately when I craft, or I want a cozy area, uncluttered area when I want to sit down and read and drink a cup of coffee, or I want my mornings to be easier, or I'm just really tired of seeing XYZ on the kitchen bar. Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be a complicated motivation, but just know why, because you could refer back to your why when you start feeling tired and bummed out. You remember why you're doing this, and take before pictures and then look at them and go, oh my God, 15 minutes. I came a really far way from in 15 minutes, at the beginning. I encourage, we got a phone. Everybody has a phone. Take a picture,
You get that dopamine. I mean, really, this is one of the quickest ways you can improve your life. Like in 15 minutes, you'll have actual progress, which is pretty awesome. I think it's also then knowing what is no longer serving you. And I know we talked a little bit about that now, but if you don't quilt anymore, if you don't camp in the tent anymore, like you like to cabin camp now, or like,
hotels are,
huh?
hotels are good.
Hotels are great. Or people who like to read books, but they're like, oh, and then they keep it because it was a really good book. And then they say, you know what, I really don't reread nonfiction books. Or like, I really only reread like 1 or 2 books, and you're able to let that go. And I think that's where you see on TV, like when they're casting people, to be on these shows or whatever. Those people have made a decision that they're done with that phase of their life. And that's also a huge motivator, right? Like you can get rid of a lot of items if you know that you're done with that.
Yes.
But on a smaller scale, just kind of having that in mind can also really jumpstart your process.
Oh, absolutely. And not only is it is who am I right now? I talked about your present self,
Mhm.
knowing who I am, and how I want my home to support who I am. And that's another big deal. It reflects like I said, it reflects who you are, not who you were, and not your fantasy self. Um, so what are you going to do with the items in the space? Those are questions you need to ask.
And I think, Mary, one of the points that I know we talked about before we started recording that I thought was good in this is that don't lock yourself into your items to define who you are right now.
Mhm.
So like you might be in this phase where you're trying out a whole bunch of stuff and that's cool, but you also might want to be upgrading some of your items. I feel like when we watch a lot of these decluttering and organizing videos, they're like, oh, don't go buy new stuff. Like, like you should be making use of what you have. And that's true, but also like sometimes as we age, like we want to treat ourselves to something nicer. Like you might be over drugstore cosmetics, you might be over the Cool Whip containers and wanting to get the nice Pyrex dishes. And
Mhm.
you would rather have like less Tupperware just so you can have only nice Tupperware because
Mhm.
that's reflecting more where your priorities are, right?
Oh, absolutely. And where I encourage people to not don't go buy is don't when you start this process, do not go out and buy a bunch of organizing product.
Yes, yes.
Bins and shelves. Do
Good.
not, do not.
Yes.
When I say don't go out and buy it, I'm talking about don't go out and buy that stuff.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. People, as they change, yeah, they want to, particularly in my age, you want to have the stuff that you'd like to have and
Yeah.
that you can afford and grade up to. And in the long run, it's you get rid of the 47 Cool Whip containers and have 6 glass containers with lids. Because let's be honest, I mean, I barely cook, you know. And so that's part of who I am now is I used to all the time, not anymore.
If you're like, you know what, I really want something completely different, that's okay. We're still just making space for that. So you don't have to limit it by what you've already collected over the years.
No, you
Um,
can let that go completely.
the other thing, like you were saying, is really kind of figuring out what you want to do with the items. So this is like, so a lot of times we get really motivated because we know our why, we know what we want, and then we just have this pile of items, and then they're like rabbits, they just kind of reproduce and make more mess, or they start creeping back into the space, right?
Uh,
And so for me, like what I like to do is I like to have like a little spot in my home where the items are gonna go. But more so before you even get to that point is what are you gonna do with the items that you're decluttering? My rule of thumb that I tell my clients is if you're not recycling yet, like now's not the time to start recycling, right? Or just let it go. And then I have a lot of clients who like to resell items. And so I've come up with a lot of rules for reselling. I don't know if you'll agree with them all, Mary, but like for one is that I just think it's better donated. If you have a collection or something that's very expensive, then you can definitely do like a consignment or try to take it to somebody who has like auctions or somebody who can take like the bunch of them and give you a decent value for that. But you need to have a plan for those type of items. But for the general stuff, I think one of the biggest issues we have in our area are garage sales. So you're like, oh, I'm gonna just keep it in the garage till next garage sale. Well, that's 6 months away. Like, get
yeah.
rid of the item. And then you have to sit outside on your curb for a whole day in the heat to make like $1. Like,
Mhm.
I just think with reselling is that either if you have something really valuable, yes, definitely take those to like a special collection or consignment or auction kind of place. If you just have regular items and you really want to do Facebook, then we recommend that you just put them in like a large group of things and then have them like full price the first week, half price the second week, donation the third week. Like if they don't sell in 2 weeks, nobody wants it. Um, and then also like I personally, I just like to get the items at my house, but I like to have them in my local area. So I put them on the curb. Like I just put them on like the yard to free sale kind of thing at the end of the curb, and then people can come and get it.
I discourage my clients from selling, and this is why. And I have enough contacts that I will call for them, but I will be brutally honest, and this is hard. Collections are important to you because they were part of your history. Hummels now have almost no value.
Yeah.
Unless it's signed by Sister Anuncia herself, then they have no value. Beanie Babies have no value. National Geographics, as I've said for that in Time magazines, unless it's signed by JFK or Neil Armstrong, these things don't have any value. and finding the collector that would value them is really like a needle in a haystack. So I encourage
Yeah.
to just donate them, or put them on the curb or whatever. And I know it's hard, but you can donate because there might be somebody out there that's looking for them. But finding the right buyer for these collections is far too hard. Clothing is not ever going to sell. I mean, don't even bother with clothing at a yard sale. And I have plenty of yard sale hours under my belt. Furniture sells, but you can do that on Facebook Marketplace now. Facebook Marketplace is a source, but you have to be very careful. There's a lot of scams out there. There's a lot of sketchy behavior.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, donate it, take the tax write-off.
Yeah. Or set up like a professional business, because you're gonna spend so much time taking pictures, communicating.
Uh-huh.
So all that labor to make it's just not worth it. You're gonna let it go.
Yeah, it's really not. And here is an option, because this is about the mindset. If you have a good consignment store in your area that takes furniture and decor and
Mhm.
whatnot, and if you want to commit to going however frequently they're open to accept, but once again, that takes a lot of time and gas and effort, but that is an option to
Yeah.
do a good consignment store.
Mhm.
But that's part of that mindset of letting it go. And it needs to go into the garbage, or needs to just honestly just be given. Now,
Yeah.
here is a gift. There are a lot of people that want to, their kids to have certain things, or their kids' history or whatever. They're adult children. And I tell them, just like you set up rules, you give them a week to respond. Do you want your old yearbooks? And then you have to set up a date. They have to come get this stuff or get it mailed to them within a couple of weeks. Now, I understand if your kids live way out of town, but you have to have some type of parameter so you're not holding it for another 6 months, a year when they finally decide to get it.
Yeah, and your parameter for that could also be containers, depending on your living space. Like you could say, like, okay, well, I'm only gonna put in this many bins, and you have until this time to get it. But if it doesn't fit in the bins, then they have to kind of start picking out, because like they're not gonna want a whole room of stuff anyways. Like that's overwhelmed for them.
No, and frequently they don't want their old artwork, they don't want their old school papers. These are our memories as parents, not their memories as students. So that's part of that mindset also of your why, is you're trying to clear out your space. And sometimes that's we'll talk about later, some clutter you can leave alone for now. But that's part of that why, is you're clearing out your space for you, and you're not a depository for everybody else.
The other thing with gifting is, Cass from Clutterbug has the saying. I tried this thing. It came up in one of the organizing chats that we had with her, but it was that your item's not a cat, and it's not gifting. Like in your case, you're talking about items that belong to them, or that they like are communal items, like ornaments or something.
Mhm.
I find a lot of my clients are like, oh, you know what? I think Susie from church might be the best person to take this jacket, and then like maybe Marge doesn't like, and it's like, no, like it's not a cat. Like just let it go. Like if you think Susie's your best option, don't overthink it. Just say like, hey Susie, do you want this coat? If not, I'm gonna donate at the end of the week. And then she knows like, yes, I want it, or no, I don't. Because that's just prolonging it. And we really need these items out so you can get that breathing room back in.
Right.
The other side of it is donation. It kind of sounds cold, but I find a lot of the reason that my clients have items is because they want to be helpful, right? So they want to be like, oh, there's a tragedy. They like, oh, you can come to me for a pot, or oh, my kids need new blankets. Like, oh, I have an extra set, and we keep extra things that we don't use because we think, well, somebody someday will use it. But you can actually give it to a donation center now and trust that it's going to go to somebody who uses it. For me, I found that I like to know, like there's kind of like the Salvation Army, Goodwill kind of general places for your general stuff. But if you know, like there's like an old age home that will take like arts and crafts supplies, it just makes it so much easier to donate them, because you're like, oh, this is going to go help, you know, an elderly person in a living room, or this is going to go help the preschool kids,
Mhm.
or something like that. So you can also try to donate where your heart is, and then that will make it a little bit easier.
And with that mindset, is you're helping people, but do not use that as a stopping point, something that's causing you not to get rid of things.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
use it as an excuse of, oh, I hadn't been able to get it to the elementary school. Then just give it to the local thrift store or whatever. And that's part of that mindset of, once again, is my why is I need to get my space cleaned out. And yes, I do want to help people, but not at the detriment of your own well-being and sanity.
Yeah, and if you have your space cleaned out and you're able to function and you're saving time, you're gonna have the time that if somebody comes to you and they need some old dented pot from your kitchen collection, of you can go find them that pot, Like you're gonna have the time and the resources to be able to do that. So Mary, we talked a little bit about kind of figuring out who you are in this season and what is and what's not serving you, what to actually do with the physical items. What are some other factors that you think we should consider in here?
Well, the biggest for me is getting family support in that. And this is what my family support looks like, is letting them know, okay, I am in the decluttering mode. Please respect, don't call me, hey, does anybody yet, where's the mayonnaise? Or, has anybody fed the cat yet? Or whatever. It's like, I need to be removed from the day-to-day stuff for the next 15 minutes, hours, 2 hours, whatever. It's like, I have to get along without me, because once I'm interrupt, I've lost that flow. And I
Mhm.
want to stay in the flow for as long as I can stay in the flow. And I think that's important. I mean, tell your family, this is important to me, so I need you to leave me alone for a while and let me do this. And most families are, they're thrilled. But I always have to turn off my phone, turn off my text notifications, because let me tell you, that ding is like Pavlov's bell. Ooh, hey, ooh, what was that? Ooh, what was that?
Yeah.
So put your phone in, and I put my phone in another room and turn it off, silence it, so I can't even hear it for the next hour, 2 or 3. For me, I can work longer, but it may be
Yeah.
15 minutes. But those are avoiding that interruption, and family interruption is huge.
Yeah. And also interrupting yourself, which I know I'm guilty of. Like there is definitely power in finishing the space. Like even if it's just finishing, 15, 20 minutes in that space. But like what I'll do is I'll start doing that and be like, oh, I should really put dinner in, or oh, the wash needs flipped, or I'll go check the mail. Like, why do I need to check the mail when I'm organizing the laundry room? I don't. But like my brain says, oh, let's go do all this other stuff because this seems harder, right? So
Exactly.
try not to interrupt yourself. I think the other thing is that when you're decluttering, depending on if you're doing like a space or if you're doing like your whole house or whatever, kind of deciding with your family how their participation is gonna look in that. And usually, spoiler alert, you're on your own. But like my husband, we have like the rule where I kind of take like, because we don't want you to declutter other people's items, but they're in your space, like, and they're not gonna do it. Sometimes you got to start the ball rolling. So I just put like items that I don't think he's using anymore into the donation bin, and he has complete rights to say that he wants to keep that item. But knowing that up front, he doesn't feel like, oh, I'm throwing out his stuff or I'm getting rid of his stuff. It's just like, hey, here's the things I don't think you want anymore. And then most of the times he only picks like 1 or 2 items out of the bin. And some of the stories are interesting when he chooses to save. But um I think just having them know like you're not throwing out their stuff, but you gotta make this better.
Yeah. And see, in my case, I practice it myself, and I encourage my clients, just deal with your own stuff. I have enough clutter to go around.
Hmm.
And then if it's a case of, say, your bedroom between you and your spouse is a mess and you've got your stuff cleaned up, a lot of times they will feel energized. I've had my husband say, yeah, because you're getting everything straightened up, and I kind of feel like I need to do the same. And then they'll go and do their thing.
Hmm.
You know,
That's true too.
as we
Yeah.
said, there are many, many ways to get to the same end.
Yep.
Nothing is written in stone. There are many processes to get to a decluttered, organized home or
Yeah, and
space.
just thinking through that. That's what we're talking about today. Just start thinking through how do you deal with that. Maybe have some of the conversations with them or whatever. I think one of the big things is time. And I know I'm guilty of this because, when I work with professional clients, they always want to book the entire day. And I am like, no, like we can do 3. Like I've had a couple people do like 4 hours, but I like 4 hours is with the cleanup because like 3 hours, it just seems to be like our mental max on things. Like I'm tired, they're tired. Like
Yeah.
I don't know what you've seen in that.
Right. And I agree with you in that. Now, as a professional organizer, I can work 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours because
Mhm.
I have no relationship to these objects. My brain is not having to process memories and thoughts and decisions. I'm just moving out. I have rarely had a client that could go more than 3 hours. And most of them, I'll look at them and at 3 hours, they're kind of like, I'm really kind of done. And I'm like, yeah, I can tell. You're really getting fatigued mentally and physically because there's some physical aspect to decluttering and organizing. But I really don't. That's why I work in 3 hour increments with clients because I really, all these years, it's like that is about the max they can go. It is the
Yeah.
rare client that can go longer than that.
And also, like when we're working with clients, we can go a little bit longer because, like you said, one, it's not your stuff, but also you blocked off that time. Like,
Yeah.
you're not getting distracted by their mailbox because it's not your mail. So like
Yeah, exactly.
you are focused in. And I think we also don't get as overwhelmed with like the messy middle. Like we're okay with, pulling out items and stuff and doing it a certain way because we know the system and we know we can put it back because we have that dedicated time. I think that's where, as individuals, even in my own home, I try not to do that because it does become overwhelming.
Right.
It's only you in there. My other side though, that is that I had always struggled with the 15 minutes. People are like, oh, 15 minutes and you just do 15 minutes. And I always felt like it wasn't making enough progress. Like, I'm like, oh, I got this whole room and it's only 15 minutes. And I really have over time seen that the 15 minutes is actually really powerful.
Mhm.
What I do is I like to do like 15 minutes if I feel energy keep going, but I like to be able to check it off. And when we actually calculated it out, it was over 11 working days. Like if you spend 15 minutes every day, that's 11 working days a year. You could definitely get a lot of spaces done in that time.
And I know some people will argue, well, my gosh, if I start 15 minutes in the kitchen and work my way around in 15 minutes, and 15 minutes is, you can do more than one drawer in 15 minutes. You can do quite a bit. People seriously underestimate what they can do in 15 minutes. 15 minutes is a nice chunk.
Yeah.
Uh, and they'll say, but by the time I go back around, there's a mess again. Well, yes and no, because if you're decluttering, and this is part of the mindset of I'm going to set my time, when you're decluttering, there's that much less to deal with the second time around because you've gotten rid of the trash, you've gotten rid of the excess in that particular drawer. So, duplicates and the multiples and the things you don't use anymore, you got rid of it and you're going to continue to get rid of it. So every time you go around, you have that much less to deal with. Theoretically. Now, I do realize stuff comes into our house all the time. So that's why, like laundry, this process is kind of ongoing.
Yeah.
You
But with the 15 minutes a day, if you're somebody who doesn't feel like it's making that much progress as you're going through these phases, and I know we'll talk a little bit more about this next week, but like, if we're talking about decluttering, and like you said, we recommend that you start with trash, and just kind of getting rid of all the trash in the area. Then like, okay, one day I did trash, well, I didn't get it all done. Well, then the next day you go in, you're getting rid of trash. And then you can kind of be like, okay, I got all the trash out. Now I'm going to this next stage. And you're actually seeing that progress in terms of the steps, not just in terms of the overall space.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
so, and part of that, going back to the mindset, is the mindset of how I want. And I love the fact that you work for 15 minutes, and if you feel energy, you keep on going. And if you don't, you know that there's an end, that 15 minutes is all you need to go. But if you want to keep going, keep going. And that's part of that mindset, that mental and physical energy mindset that
Yeah.
you're turning on to create this optimism and momentum that we talked about versus dread and negativity. Is you're turning it into this cool thing is I've got 15 minutes to do this at least, and or can give myself more.
Yeah, and like you said, the hardest part about decluttering isn't the items, it's about learning about yourself, right?
Mhm.
And so like you might go into a space and you're going to start noticing that you're mentally checking out. Like
Mhm.
you're going in there and you're not supposed to be decluttering your books, but you wind up reading all the covers, right? Well, that didn't help anybody, but there's like a reason why you're doing it. And so that's why we also try to go for the shorter time period. So you can kind of check in with yourself at the end, like, hey, am I actually making the progress that I want to be doing? Or is there something else here? So you can kind of keep that going.
Yeah, and that's part of being aware is if you are intending to work on an area and you keep checking out, you may not be should be working on that area. The mindset may not be for that area. And that's I talk to my clients about that. When I'm on the phone with them initially, one of my first questions is what area is making you nuts? What area in your house is making you crazy? And they can, I mean, every time. it may be, oh my God, the entryway is a disaster. Oh, my bedroom, I can't get any peace and quiet. Oh, the kid, blah, blah, blah. The kids' playroom. Or, oh, my mother's, her room is just, and so you kind of know immediately deep down where you want to work, where versus where you should work. And there is no should, and that's what we talk about in our videos in the mindset. There is no must start here when you're organizing and decluttering. You can start where it feels good, where it feels right, where it's making you the craziest even,
Yeah. So I think like when we're talking about mindset, we're talking about who are you now, with what's working, what's not working for your space. What are you going to do with the items that you're going to get rid of, right? And then also like your time and your family, like how the like kind of the logistical parts. So I think like the final part of it is like what you're talking about, like where should I start? And I think that's like such a it's almost easier to answer where not to start.
Mhm.
Like again, like you said, you might go into a space and you're just not able to make progress, then don't start in that space, go to something else because there's something in there that's bothering you. We also recommend that you don't start with memorabilia because it's just hard. It takes a long time. We don't start collections unless you know you want to get rid of a whole category of items. Like, let's not try to start narrowing down the humbles. Like, just keep all the humbles for now. We're gonna make progress on everything else. And also paperwork, just because paperwork is so logistic. So we recommend that when you actually go to start decluttering, you actually have bins for these. So you can kind of say like, okay, here's a memorabilia item that doesn't have a home, and you can put it somewhere that's gonna stay safe until you can deal with that later. Um, but as far as where to start, like you said, there are areas of tension are great. Some people like to start with an area that they have control over, so like
Yes.
it doesn't get messed up by your family members. Sometimes I have clients who are like, hey, I'm investing, especially with a professional organizer, then and I want to see and I want to show my family that it's working. So like for their case, they want to work in the kitchen or the family room where there's a lot of visibility.
Mhm.
Where else have you seen like recommendations as starting areas?
Well, like you said, where your energy is calling, and also winnable areas, but um, like if your energy is maybe you have a medical condition or whatever, something that is handleable for you within that energy window. And I'll honestly say easy wins. I mean, I'll tell you easy wins, and we're going to talk about this in our next video. Um, a bathroom is usually an easy win. Also what was the other one?
Pantries are
Pantry, easy win.
I like, yeah, I think like entryways are usually easy wins because it's usually bigger, bulkier items that you can quickly kind of go through.
Mhm.
You could definitely get the easy wins. And I think on the medical one, just to not overdo that, because there's a lot of people who do have either physical energy, mental medical issues or energy medical issues, right? It's like you're probably gonna need to spend a little bit more time in this phase. So
Mhm.
before you start even decluttering, just kind of start thinking through like where can your energy go? Jen, who used to be in our group with us, she did a really good job of breaking down like your whole house that way. And she talked about how like if she was having a really, really bad day, she would be like, what can I do on my own? Like, can I go do a drawer? Like, can I sit in front of the door and sort through a door? Or what could somebody bring to me, like a bin from the attic, right? Or she's feeling awesome, she just does the whole house that day. But actually having that mapped out based on that, it's a lot more prep, but that's going to actually be able to allow you to get more of that progress.
Exactly. Exactly. So, I mean, our whole video today is about preparing to declutter, organize, and optimize. And we always talk about how preparation, none of us believe it until it happens. But if you prepare well, then everything is going to be more successful. So you're preparing with your mindset becomes a positive, good momentum and good energy. You're preparing by, you talked about setting up a given area that you're ready when you're ready to declutter, that you have an area where you could put the things to donate, the things to throw out, the things that should live in another room. I mean, you said that she goes, you got a pile of laundry, one more table won't be a problem. you know, you're preparing by talking to your family and saying, this is what I'm going to be doing. And these are my expectations and my boundaries.
Mhm.
And then you're preparing by figuring out where your energy is and how much time, realizing that 15 minutes is perfectly acceptable. There's nothing wrong with 15 minutes because that is 15 minutes that you made progress that you wouldn't normally have progress.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that was a great summary, Mary. I don't think you even meant to, but it was an amazing summary. So kind of transitioning, next week we are going to be talking about decluttering. So this one's all about mindset. We'd love to hear your questions below if you have anything on it, because it's not as commonly talked about. And so we want to hear like what we can do to help you and any mindset shifts that you have. But next week, we are going to be talking about decluttering. So if you want to kind of get a jump start and you're following along with us, then I definitely recommend setting up like a decluttering station, you know? So this could be like a bookcase in your hallway. It could be a table, but just have somewhere where the donations are going to go so that ideally on Saturday or whenever you have time, you load up the car and your donations could go in the car, you know? But you have a place for donations to go. You have a place for like extra trash bags to stay in, and just any items that are going to other people that you can kind of all place there. And then, like we said, you know, having a spot, now maybe it's not in the hallway, but having a spot for your memorabilia and your paperwork. The reason is we don't want you to get bogged down by something so small, and we focus on that a lot. We'll be like, well, what should we do with grandpa's watch? Like, put it in the box and keep going with things that we don't care as much about, and then we can come back to grandpa's watch, you know? So anyways, I think that's it, Mary. Unless you have any final thoughts.
No, I am excited. I'm excited to share our process with everybody else, and hopefully we'll make their journey full of optimism and momentum, as we said, energy and momentum. So no, I think you got it all. So,
and if you have any questions, you can leave them below. You can join us for our live on January 14th if you're watching this in real time, or you can always just go ahead and email us, and all that information will be below. So,
absolutely.
Are you ready to sign off, Mary?
I am.
I got my coffee mug, so cheers, friend.
Hold on, let me get it in focus.
Oh, no.
Yay! Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.